Greetings and welcome to the Game of the Year coverage here at Words About Games. 2-ish weeks of intense coverage of all the best and worst games of 2018, celebrating the good times and the excellent games, as well as taking a look forward at 2019, making some predictions for the year ahead and highlighting some of the most exciting games that are due to make an appearance in the next 12 months. Today, we're counting down the best of the best, with the final part of our top 30 games of 2018. I keep a fairly open mind about any of the games I choose to play. Even so, I had no idea that a dating sim with competitive multiplayer would get anywhere near my Game of the Year list, let alone easily make the top 10 and be one of my new go-to multiplayer games. I have not laughed as much at a game in a long time as I have when playing Monster Prom with my friends, outright collapsing out of my chair during a live stream earlier last year, thanks to the outrageously excellent sense of humour that this game has. Above all else, it's the wonderful cast of characters and the absurd situations you find yourself in with them that has me completely hooked on this game. Each of the 6 main characters of Monster Prom, who you'll spend your time trying to win over for a date to the titular event, are spectacularly well written, full of personality, and brought to life spectacularly by some really well written dialogue. You'll get into all sorts of hilarious hijinks with each of them, regardless of who you're trying to date, so much so that it's impossible to pick a favourite. Seriously, I tried in the process of writing this Game of the Year entry to pick a best waifu/husbando, and it's actually impossible. Multiplayer takes Monster Prom to the next level. Depending on your target of desire, you may or may not end up in competition with your fellow players for someone's affections. Either way, playing with friends is highly recommended, as it increases your entertainment value seeing what insanity they unleash upon a given playthrough. And if you do end up in competition with someone else, then you're in for a fantastic ride of potential sabotage and endless side-eyeing. Either way, Monster Prom is an uproariously entertaining way to spend an afternoon with some friends, and easily one of my favourite games of 2018. If you'd have asked me 12 months ago whether I thought the next Call of Duty would be anywhere near my top 10 games of 2018, I'd have said absolutely not. I haven't been much into Call of Duty since the Modern Warfare days, and given that Black Ops 4 was ditching its single-player campaign, the only reason I've kept up with COD in recent years, I didn't think I'd get much out of the latest entry. A focus on multiplayer was exactly what I thought I didn't want from a Call of Duty game. 1 year and dozens of hours later, and my past self has been well and truly proven wrong. Owing to the newly minted Blackout mode and a revamped traditional multiplayer offering, Black Ops 4 dug its hooks in deeply and has kept me coming back for more repeatedly in the months since its release. It's become my go-to multiplayer game, whether I'm solo queuing the multiplayer or diving into the game's Battle Royale arena with my friends, trying to eke out another win against long odds. Blackout is everything I wanted from PUBG, and then some, offering fast-paced gameplay with the refined Call of Duty shooting mechanics and a stable performance. The addition of consumable perks and smartly implemented gear and gadgets are both excellent ideas, allowing for tactical thinking beyond simply aiming, shooting, and running, with careful use of gadgets specifically sometimes being the difference between life and death. Over in multiplayer, some great modes beyond the usual deathmatch and a focus on class-based characters ensures that Treyarch are onto a winner with Black Ops 4, putting Call of Duty back on the map for many lapsed players, such as myself.
Stow your fear. It's now or never.
We'll win this. I know we will.
It's more Smash. In fact, Ultimate is the most Smash Bros. Game we've ever gotten. Every character and stage from past entries in the franchise have made a return for the Switch iteration of the series, making this one of the most generous video game offerings of 2018. Where most were simply expecting Nintendo to port the Wii U version of the game to its newest console, the publisher went several steps beyond this to give us the biggest, most packed entry of Smash Bros. There's ever been. Everyone is here is the tagline for the game, and Ultimate follows through in more ways than one. Every Switch owner I know has this game, enticed by the opportunity to play one of Nintendo's best multiplayer exclusives. Jumping into a few rounds of Smash Bros. Ultimate with friends is an experience that few other multiplayer games can match. Whatever your personal preference for match types, items on, thank you very much. There are so many characters here that you'll find a fair few that match your playstyle, even if unlocking them can be a bit of a laborious task. The only issue is in finding things to say about the game that haven't already been said. That's where World of Light comes in. Smash Ultimate's single-player offering has been expanded from previous series entries to incorporate an adventure mode, casting you as Kirby, the only survivor of a cataclysm that thrusts you on a journey to rescue the rest of the roster, who have had shadow duplicates of themselves made that you'll have to fight past. It's more involved than a Smash Bros. Single-player campaign needs to be, and probably deeper than we have any right to expect from a game that's always been known for its casual multiplayer fun. Smash Bros. Ultimate is, as the title suggests, the ultimate iteration of Smash Bros. And the most fun I've had with friends in 2018. What a wonderful game Ashen turned out to be. An action RPG that riffs heavily on the Dark Souls formula, this is a world that's a genuine pleasure to explore. You begin your journey by liberating a camp that serves as your home base. As you explore more of the world and recruit others to your cause of ridding the land of dark creatures, this camp becomes a home. One of Ashen's greatest pleasures is in returning from treks out into the wilderness, seeing how the companion characters and settlers transform this makeshift camp into an actual town, slowly building a home in an otherwise hostile environment. That's not all the game has to offer, of course. This is a game that lives or dies by how good its core gameplay is, as is the tradition of any Souls-inspired creation. And while there's probably not enough weapon variety to satisfy most, I found a couple of weapons I liked early on and simply upgraded them at every opportunity, Ashen's combat is fluid and satisfying once you learn its rules and teach yourself how to work around its stamina management requirements. Boss fights are excellent, and thanks to an impressive enemy variety, even general exploration is a satisfying endeavour that'll keep you on your toes. And if that doesn't wholly satisfy you, the world itself is so gorgeous and packed with mystery, secrets and intrigue that it begs to be explored. The art style is phenomenal, which combines with the almost fairy tale-like world to create an environment that is a joy to explore simply for the sake of it, presenting some of the most beautiful places to explore in a game in 2018. It may have arrived late on in the year, but Ashen is still one of the most satisfying experiences of 2018. Playing as an insurance inspector touring a ghost ship to figure out what happened to its crew and passengers might, at first, not sound all that compelling of a hook for a video game. But that's what you're spending your time doing in The Return of the Obra Dinn, a compelling game that actually turns you into a bit of a detective. At least it does if you want to figure out the identities of the various inhabitants of the ship and what fate befell them. To successfully complete your investigation, you'll need to work out the exact fate of everyone who was on board the now abandoned ship, figuring out their name, position, and cause of death. Luckily, you have a magic stopwatch that allows you to see the moment of their death and hear the last few seconds of their life. Figuring out the cause of death is usually the easy part. It's not a logical leap, for example, to determine that the crewman who was crushed by a loose cannon died because they were crushed by a loose cannon. The trick is in figuring out the name of that crewman and who or what caused the cannon to crush them in the first place. There are 10 major events that befell the Obra Dinn that you'll need to explore to work out the fate of everyone on board, and you'll need to pay attention to everything you see and hear to solve the game's mysteries. Anything from remembering the context of earlier scenes to listening to how people are addressed or even identifying accents could prove absolutely crucial. And before long, you'll have a notepad out, making reams of notes and mapping out who you think is who and how their death offers a clue to the identity of another crewman who died 4 months later. It's a deep game, is what I'm saying, and is so well put together that you'll find yourself hours in, deep in the rabbit hole, asking yourself how it's suddenly 4 in the morning. This was my first Monster Hunter game, and by all accounts an excellent starting point for someone like me, who had precisely zero experience with the franchise before 2018. It also feels like it was tailor-made just for me, offering the perfect blend of RPG mechanics, world building, epic multi-stage boss fights, and depth of gameplay options that I was looking for from the game. I was hooked pretty much from my first major hunt, as I stalked a giant beast through the world, learning its weaknesses and tracking it through multiple engagements, only to have a bigger predator join the party and force me to quickly change up my tactics and adapt on the fly. From a gameplay perspective, it took me some time to actually really get into the game, though this actually speaks highly of how adaptable Monster Hunter World actually is. There are a variety of different weapon types to choose from in the game, each with wildly differing styles of play that can fundamentally alter the type of game you're playing. Twin swords, for example, make this a fast-paced hack and slash game, where a sword and shield combo turns this into a slower-paced, more considered game. My weapon of choice, the light bowgun, meant that my experience was more akin to a third-person shooter. It speaks to an incredibly confident design that the game offers such vastly differing playstyles as options, and has them all stick for different players. Speaking to friends who used other weapons, it's quite crazy how different our gameplay experiences were from one another, and a testament to how well designed the game is. Throw in a dynamic and highly reactive world in which other monsters can show up during a hunt and fight each other, or you, a huge variety of monsters that all require very different tactics to fight, and an equipment grind I was actually happy to partake in, and Monster Hunter World is a game that easily sucked hours of my life as I attempted to tame the frontier. Matt Thorson made one of my favourite multiplayer games of all time in Towerfall Ascension, so I was eagerly anticipating his follow-up, Celeste, a platformer in which you climb a dangerous mountain and must confront a dark version of yourself. Its deeply emotional story moved me to tears. Celeste was a hugely important game for me personally, helping me come to terms with a lot going on inside my head. For that reason alone, it was probably always going to be one of my favourite games of the year, and probably of all time. What propels it so far up this list is how incredibly satisfying it is to play. Celeste is a puzzle platformer with a challenging difficulty curve, with screen after screen of tough platforming sections that require mastery of your abilities and meticulous timing to proceed to the next stage. It's a wonderful feeling to best the challenge of the mountain and keep pushing further and further up. While there are plenty of sections that may seem daunting as you first approach them, wondering how you could possibly make it to the other side, Celeste is set up in such a way that trial and error is no big thing, thanks to quick respawns robbing you of minimal progress. If brutal difficulty isn't your thing, however, Celeste also has a range of difficulty settings that can make your ascent less of a challenge, allowing anyone to experience this magnificent game in any way they see fit. Unlimited stamina or jumps are just a couple of the options at your disposal. You can toggle one or two settings on to compensate for a particular mechanic you're stuck on, or turn them all on and become an overpowered goddess flying through each level with ease. The choice is yours. It's a wonderful mechanic that allows anyone and everyone to experience Celeste's beauty and helps make it one of the best games of 2018.
Why'd you call? Need a date to the policeman's ball?
You got a black and white suit?
SpiderMan is the only game I've intentionally platinumed. That's the easiest shorthand I can use to describe just how enjoyable I found this game. A game so good that I went out of my way to unlock every trophy, purely because I was having so much damn fun existing as Spider-Man that I didn't want it to stop. Insomniac Games has taken the idea of being Spider-Man and swinging through the streets of New York, fighting criminals and the best rogues gallery Marvel has, and made it utterly enchanting. The key is in its simplicity. It's actually quite easy to swing through the streets as Spidey. Where a lesser developer might have made the controls overly complex, Insomniac was restrained, striking the perfect balance and making this the most authentic Spider-Man video game you'll be able to find. The same goes for the story and their interpretation of Peter Parker. This is a quintessential Spider-Man experience, with all of the core themes and characterizations intact. It really feels like you're experiencing an authentic part of Peter Parker's legacy, with an emotionally charged narrative that captures the character perfectly. Despite the fact that I sunk around 30 hours into this game, it feels like it was over in a flash. Everything I was doing was just so enjoyable, whether that was fighting criminals, finding collectibles, travelling from place to place. Spider-Man remains the only game I've played that I'd rather not use fast travel at all, or basically anything at all. The core gameplay is so well realised that it totally masked the fact that this is actually a fairly traditional open world, with fairly traditional open world activities and distractions. I didn't care. I just wanted another excuse to carry on playing what was one of the most enjoyable experiences of 2018. Throughout the summer, meaningful work at Words About Games ground to a halt as I struggled with an addiction to Dead Cells. I'd already put about 15 hours into the game before I even considered writing my review impressions video. But instead of getting that done so I could move on to whatever game was next, I kept loading this game up for another run, telling myself that I was simply collecting more data for my eventual video. This, of course, was a lie. I was just totally and completely enraptured by a truly excellent roguelike action platformer, one that had its hooks so far into me that I still boot it up for a few runs from time to time. Dead Cells feels utterly amazing to play. That's the biggest reason it captured me so easily. For all its well thought out systems and mechanics and the really intelligent way they interact with one another, it's the incredible core gameplay that drew me back in time after time. I could play this game aimlessly for hours, even if the end goal was taken away by a patch and the only objective was to play simply for the sake of it. I guess that's probably the highest praise I can offer a game, really. Whatever loadout you're equipped with, I guarantee the near perfect gameplay mechanics will feel spellbinding. It's the extra mechanics that hold the game together that make this one of the greats of a pretty stacked year. You'll die in Dead Cells. A lot. But outside of getting unlucky, each death will generally have meaning as you collect cells from fallen enemies to purchase permanent upgrades or unlock new weapons and equipment. Or maybe you'll find a new path or area, or learn something new about the next main boss, or gain a new ability that unlocks an entirely new path for you to explore. Despite death coming frequently, you'll always be making progress in one way or another, feeding a just one more run compulsion that will suck hours of your time away from you without you even noticing. Much like several other games on this list, I'd never actually played a God of War game before this year. I didn't really have all that much interest in playing a QTE-laden game starring a dick who brutally murdered a pantheon of Greek gods. 2018's God of War, however, immediately intrigued me, seemingly giving series protagonist Kratos an actual personality and injecting some much-needed story and lore into the franchise. And for all its excellence in gameplay and world-building, this is what makes God of War stand out as one of the absolute best games of the year. The journey undertaken by Kratos and his son Atreus is one of the most powerful of 2018, and one of the most memorable of recent times. Kratos is transformed by the near-perfect writing and an amazing performance by Christopher Judge into a protagonist worth caring about. A complex person as opposed to an avatar that players control to push buttons and destroy everything around them. Exploring the world, digging into Kratos' mindset, psychology and history, and fighting as hard as possible just to deliver his deceased wife's ashes to a mountaintop is, without a doubt, the best story a game told in 2018. There's more to it than that, of course. The new Norse setting is brilliantly developed, offering players a beautifully realised world filled to bursting with wonder, awe, and so much to discover. Whether you're following the main quest, exploring a side area, or meeting one of the fantastic supporting characters, there's so much here that deepens your connection to the world around you. Throw in the completely revamped combat system in which you can throw and recoil your axe 1,000 times and not have it get old, and you've got the best gaming experience 2018 has to offer. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. If you've enjoyed it, please keep it here at Words About Games. We've got tons of content, including our weekly podcast, more impressions videos, patch notes, and our weekly indie game of the week. We also stream over on Twitch at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. And most importantly, have a great day.